Hi Gina, thank you for doing a video testimonial about the AL Sense product. I understand that you used this new product in your pregnancy. Can you tell me a little bit about it and how you used it?
Sure. I used the AL Common Sense pads because my doctor had suggested it to me, and they work by detecting amniotic fluid leaking versus just urine. And when the amniotic fluid leaks, the pad changes to a blue color, so you know that it's amniotic fluid.
So that's the liner that you used?
This is the liner that I used.
Pregnancy. Why did your doctor recommend that you use it?
In my first pregnancy, I had contractions early, and I also, both of my pregnancies had a cervical stitch put in place, and so this pregnancy he suggested that I use them. I was 37 weeks when he did, and that's right around the time that I had my first son at 37 weeks. So he just wanted to make sure that everything was okay, and I used the pad the next day, and that morning the pad turned blue, and I called the doctor, and he told me to come into the hospital, and that evening I had a baby.
Excellent. So you did not detect any leaking on your own?
I did not detect any leaking on my own. I actually had no idea. When I got to the hospital, the nurses in labor and delivery all asked when my water broke, and I told them that I had no idea, and just explained that I had used the pad because my doctor had suggested it, and that they asked why he did, and I said I'm not really sure, but I'm glad I did because I'm leaking amniotic fluid.
Gina's case, Gina was a complicated pregnancy who was complicated by a prior mid-trimester loss. She had a interval myomectomy as well as a successful pregnancy after that, but she had a cerclage in place in both pregnancies, and this most recent pregnancy, having the AL Sense available to us, I actually gave it to her just for fear that if she did break her water, she may go undiagnosed with positive ruptured membranes with the cerclage in place, which obviously leads to a high risk of infection. So Gina had called me shortly after she did test with the AL Sense and let me know that actually she had ruptured or had a suspect ruptured membranes. We brought her to labor and delivery, and sure enough, she did have ruptured membranes. I think based on the amount of discharge she had, the amount of leakage she had, she may have otherwise gone undiagnosed with premature ruptured membranes.
Now, what could have happened if you did not use the liner and the amniotic fluid leak went undetected or undiagnosed?
I know that when your amniotic fluid is leaking, it can cause infection in the baby, and it can cause problems for the baby and the mom. So I'm really glad that it was detected, and I don't know how many days before I was leaking, but the baby was healthy and everything was fine, so I'm very thankful that everything
Well, there's
turned
always
out
a
the way it did.
concern that the patient may in fact develop an amnionitis. She may develop fever, putting both the baby and herself.
Now, what pregnant women do you feel would benefit from using the AL Sense liner?
Anybody who just thinks that maybe they're leaking amniotic fluid, just to be sure. I mean, I know a lot of my friends who thought that their water broke and it wasn't their water, but they would have maybe saved them a trip or to the hospital, or at least maybe they could have just contacted their doctor about it, just to be sure that it wasn't, if they were wearing the pad.
I think the product is almost good for all obstetrical patients, whether they be low risk, high risk. I mean, I use it for patients who come in for suspect ruptured membranes, a quote-unquote labor check. Someone who's called in the middle of the night, isn't sure if she's ruptured membranes or not. If we've evaluated that patient on labor and delivery, these are patients that very often are very anxious about having premature ruptured membranes or ruptured membranes in term, and they can't determine that on their own. After they've already made a trip to the hospital sometime in the middle of the night, the last thing they want to do the next night is to come back again. So this provides us with a very easy at-home test that they can use on their own, and they could easily read and determine whether or not they in fact
Did
have
you feel
ruptured
comfortable
membranes.
looking at the color change and knowing for sure that it was blue?
At first I thought I was seeing things because it changed very quickly from when I put the pad on. But once I really looked at it again, I said, that's definitely blue, and it was fine.
Excellent. And I understand you even used it twice.
I did. I put another one on just because it did change so quickly that I almost didn't believe it. So I put another one on, and that one changed just as quickly. So I was pretty sure that it was amniotic fluid.
Thank you, Gina. I'm so happy that you have a happy and healthy family, and that the AL Sense liner played a small part in bringing it all to happen for you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.